Good morning, everyone, and thanks for invitation. Well, we are artists who work with code and technology, and well, I think we rather like working with cutting-edge tools and sometimes quite high-tech, and that's why I think we are invited here to share our experience and to show you some work.
Hello, I am Mar. And if you see that this is surprising, it's not surprising. All the artists over the last century had worked in the cutting-edge technology all their time. Like when you go to the museum and you see Yves Klein, like it's this one that is like blue paintings and nothing more than a blue. He were like researching how to get this blue print, like this blue, always the same. And he was like researching chemistry, how to do this. And when you see like all the photographers, like photography was like the cutting edge technology at the beginning of the last century. Means when we're now working with code, we're also working with the last available tool that the artists have for creating their creations. And if we want to talk about how to make them concepts that they were not possible to be done like 30 years ago or even 2 years ago, we have to use the latest technology that is available, because that's what gives us opportunities using this technology creatively. Well, last February, I don't know if you know, Google released a project called the BART. It was a project to inspire developers, and it was a worldwide, let's call campaign of Google. The first campaign that invite like 3 artists plus 1 good open call where it was given like 25,000 British pounds for doing an art commission. And all is open source. Like all the artists, we work in an open source way. Everything is in GitHub. We document our process. And that all was from Google to inspire developers. Means we put in the first slide because I think that was the from the art sector where some were kind of misunderstood a little bit the project of Google, because they were thinking that Google was taking the art world. But the real aim of Google was to inspire all the developers that they use their tools to use it more creatively and to show that many things can be possible to be done. Like, well, in our project, we will show what we use some Google technologies.
We use technology and code as artistic material. It's the same like a sculptor has clay. It's kind of this invisible thing, what is super powerful, actually.
Recently, we had this term that we are inventors. We have crazy ideas that require that we create tools that don't exist before.
I think how we started to work together was that we were making our ideas more complete. Sometimes I get certain inspiration, but it's not complete, it's very raw, and then we kind of start to shape it together. Definitely we have different set of skills. For instance, I am very into electronics and kind of soldering, but at the same time I also like philosophical approach. And Mar, for instance, he's a programming genius.
I really love code. I feel that code is like crafts, that if you don't do for one day, then the next day you are not agile. In code is done actually everything, because code is the soul of the machines.
Collaboration allows us to have another perspective on our practice, what we are doing.
We're using a lot of brain interfaces, different kinds. This is called neurofabrication, to just create things right away from your mind.
Through collaboration, actually, you open yourself and you also open to a new audience and maybe even new fields. For us, in dev art, like first time we will use speech as an interaction method.
The whole idea is that the flow of interaction is magical. You just speak a wish and we'll go into the system and magically will appear a butterfly.
Well, it's like kind of metamorphosis of wish. Well, this was kind of movie or video done by Google in the beginning of the DevArt project to kind of introduce the featured artist, and then we kind of started to talk about the projects, what we were doing for them. But for us, it was kind of very like, that's why we named, well, the title of the presentation, From Code to Magic. I mean, of course, it was inspired also by this track name, but we emphasized the magic because with this project, DevArt project, we explicitly started to think that actually technology really kind of makes us realize our concepts and embed the magic inside the work, that the audience actually get the magical experience.
Well, there is this quote that any sufficient advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And, well, as we put the example, the speech recognition technologies, I mean, it has been a while, it's there, like maybe 10 years. But, well, as you might know, everyone, like 10 years ago, it was terrible. Like you had to train the algorithm, and then you have to read the text, and then it will mistake like every 4 word that you speak. And of course, if you're native, maybe it was working, but if no, it's like, of course, not working at all. But nowadays, we use it for our installation, and it's basically working. You don't have to teach anything. You just speak. If you don't mispronounce any word, it will get it. And then it's magic, because people don't think how much algorithms and things are behind this. It's just a black box. And then is when the magic comes. Because there is a lot of thousands of operations per minute doing maybe multi-thread, but just the people is hide the technology. And that's what we try to do in our installation. Like, we use 6 computers for running everything, but people just speak. And then the butterflies appear, and they can. And then if they put the hand, they jump from the screen. And
well, let's show what we are talking about.
We will show now.
And it's more easy to understand. My name is Varvara Guljajeva, and my artist duo partner is Canet. We are artists, inventors, and creative developers. Me and Mar, we are both quite terrible at drawing, and maybe that's why we use code as our artistic material. There's a number of traditions of making a wish, like a Western Wall in Jerusalem, or birthday wishes when you are blowing the candles on the cake, falling stars. They are very diverse. The interesting thing is that all these traditions, they don't have a kind of visual manifestation. Therefore, we started to think like we want to create something out of these wishes, because in a way they are quite meaningful and they create lots of impact and there are lots of emotions. Therefore, we started to think, why not break down these wishes into emotions and feelings and create out of them something beautiful that other people can also see and interact with. We decided to use butterflies because, in our point of view, they are very, very much representative for a wish, because in the world there are like more than 18,000 different species of butterflies. They are all diverse, and also we have all very different wishes. So it was quite good link for us. When one makes a wish, really kind of hopes that some magical force will make the wish come true. You see so many colorful butterflies flying around on the upper part of the wishing wall, because we all have very diverse wishes, and the butterflies, based on the sentiment of a made wish, gets the color or the palette of its wings accordingly. Anger is red, joy is yellow, trust is green. Everything what you see is made with code. The handwritten text, cocoon, light, butterfly, the texture of the butterfly, its movement, shape, how it disappears, where it joins with other butterflies. It's a combination of different pieces of codes. First, we created a code for getting text out of the spoken word, so we use a speech API, Google Speech API for this. After making a wish, we create a butterfly, and when you reach out to take your butterfly, we detect your hand, and hand detection is made with a depth camera, which we use open frameworks for doing this piece of code. So in a way, when we look at the software architecture of the work, is quite complex, because we are using, for instance, 3 different servers in order to get 7 computers communicate between each other and put all interaction and pieces of code together. The code is quite powerful working tool for us, because it's almost like anything what we imagine is possible to create. I mean, of course, if our imagination is too much or too crazy, it's just
this installation is all done by JavaScript. Like Google was very interested that we use web technologies. Means everything that you see is rendered in Chrome. Like it's several Chromes involved, because there is 4 projectors, and each projector has his own Chrome and with his own profile, because then it's the only way you can get a thread for each Chrome, because as you might know, JavaScript is not multi-thread natively, and when you use like WebGL, it's very complicated to use web workers and these kind of things, because you cannot embed the whole library inside the web worker, and then this works when you have an algorithm that you send data and you retrieve data and these kind of things. But if you want to render images, and we had the target to render in 60 frames per second, that is very fluid, well, it's not, the browser still has a lot of limitations. And as you might see, we have a lot of effects, like we have volumetric lights, we have like flocking algorithms, we have state machines. Yeah, it's kind of a lot of things. Well, it was developed during 9 months, and Barbara and I were mainly working on this. And yeah, this project was a part of an exhibition called Digital Revolution. Was the more seen exhibition in London during this summer. It's in a museum called Barbican, which is, you might maybe don't know, it's the only state museum in the city of London, which is the core of London. It's very...
Yeah. And you can actually see this installation until end of August in Technical Museum of Stockholm, if you happen to pass by.
Now it's on tour.
Yeah, but let's move on the next, our work, actually recent work, which we also make a bit, make people to make crazy or strange things. What actually, well, what we imagine. And Mar, tell us the Catalan tradition. Maybe well, you don't know this.
I'm from Barcelona, and we have a very strange tradition that we do human towers. It's called Castellers. We are very good on it, and we arrive to have like 10 people up to each other. And yeah, this was, it's for centuries a tradition that we have. It was forbidden for certain years on the Franco times, on the dictator times, because it was a Catalan tradition. But we came back with independence, well, with the, not independence, like, sorry, like the democracy on the 80s. And now we are good as the beginning of the last century. And it's very popular because it's like, it's very integrative activity. You need like young, all fat people, strong people, women, kids, that you understand the one that goes on the top, it has to be a girl between 7 and 8, and it has to be a girl because the boys has a highly probability that many times they get fear when they are going up. And the girls at that age are very fearless, means they know statistically and they don't put never a boy.
Well, for them it's like, basically for Catalans, like a science. Because every year the different regions, they are competing who is building the highest tower. So, and I think and then they have the different kinds, like Pilar is one, if only every person goes up to another one, then the Torre is when they have like more than one in the whole tower. But anyways, we were thinking that this is like quite interesting tradition, and we wanted to mix it also with art and to make it more kind of accessible to everyone, because not everyone can participate in the tower. And we thought, okay, we want to build actually the highest tower in the world. So what we are doing, because it's still open in Barcelona until the end of this year in the Mobile World Center, where is installed our installation called the Highest Human Tower. Everyone who is passing actually can become the part of the tower. So actually, if you go to, because it has also web presence, because we really want to push the human limits, because now I think, well, here is 200 something, but I think we are over 800 meters already. So every people who participate kind of jumps out from the bottom, so it's the chain is getting higher and higher, well, you can see how we were building this.
Yeah, technically it's also done WebGL, and we also use the Kinect 2 for doing the depth chroma and capturing.
Well, Kinect gives us the height of the person, so we can also, so if they go to the web, so they can find themselves, because we
yeah, it's actually, you can see online, it's in the highesthumantower.com, and basically we have a 3D landscape of Barcelona, and it's a human scale, means you can see the tower and you can scroll it, you have a camera dynamically going up, and you can see all the positions of the people, and at the same time the look of Barcelona they will look if they are in Sant Jaume Square, which is the square that they do the competition of Castellers in Barcelona.
Okay. Also, not that you get the impression that we do fun things, but we also talk about more serious things. And the next project talks about this, speed of market. So a part of Google, we also have contact with Bloomberg, because we had a while ago this idea that we want to do one installation which talks about the financial data and basically about actually the volume of the stock markets. And
well, in June, we were having this idea for a long time, and finally, when we finished the Google project, we were looking for next projects. Like always happened to us, like when we finish one, we look for the next one. And then, I don't know how, but I found that Bloomberg had released like an API for developers for doing apps and these kind of things. And well, we said, okay, let's contact them. We have a crazy idea. We want to do something with their data. And well, at the beginning, they were very surprised. Artists contacting them, like Bloomberg is, you know everyone Bloomberg, right? Like financial data. And they were very surprised, and initially what their reaction was to moving us to the philanthropic department instead of the developing department. And then the philanthropic department just said, normally we don't deal with artists right away, we deal with institutions, means we won't bounce it again to the developing department. And then when the head of innovation of Bloomberg headquarters in London find our project, was very interested and basically invite us for a talk in London. And basically it was an opportunity for us for pitching the idea. And finally, we got them very interested that now we are working with them and we're getting data. Like it's actually a big query, what we're doing, and we explain now what we do. Basically, each one of these metronomes that you will never had seen before because it doesn't exist in the market. We just build it, cast it, 3D printed everything from scratch. They show the activity. Each one is one stock market. And we're making a big query of each stock market and knowing the activity that is happening in each stock market. This is a super big query. Each stock market has a lot of shares. But each one is representing like basically a bird view visualization, what is happening in the stock market. If you know a little bit of how a stock market has evolved over the last years, it's like one thing that has rapidly changed, and it's the volume. Because everyone knows, and you are developers, that the trading had moved from humans to algo trading, so cheated trading, black box trading, all this high-speed trading. And volume had go like, and that's why there is a lot of flash crash. I don't know if you know this term. It's like milliseconds crash that anyone don't know, but it's a millions every year, and more happening when they collide in algos of big banks. But one thing that we were very interested is like we now have the ability to know when, because sometimes in the news they say, well, today is a quiet market. They didn't move like too much the price, but that doesn't mean nothing now, nothing. They can be just moving two commas on the quote, and it can be someone losing millions, another had made millions, because the volume is what it matters. Like if they had been doing 1 million operations this year, and this day or this second, it's like basically there had been something happening. And that's what matters nowadays.
Yeah, and also that's why maybe for Bloomberg this project is interesting, because when we went to their headquarters in London, they are still like full of LED screens showing the real-time graph of the stock markets. But through our works, what we want to communicate is this is not the only way how to perceive data. You can, well, we as an artist, we use it as an artistic material, or let's say like a sculptor uses a clay. We are sculpturing the data. We give totally, like for instance, we give it, we drive the metronome speed with it, and we see it as a kind of large-scale interface for having at the same time the understanding what is going on a certain stock market. Well, you see later also another example of it. And maybe you already saw from our projects which we showed you already that a part of code we are also very hands-on, and we use like quite last time tools like digital fabrication, and we use it, we test, and we know what works, what doesn't work, and well, basically we do everything ourselves. So from the metronome itself until the code.
It's also what we were saying before about the code is the soul of the machines, and this is something that before in the last talk in the keynote, like as a developers, more and more we have access now to make the jump and do things in the hardware, because that's what happened with the apps. Now with the mobile, like finally you can do hardware thing and a lot more easy. And also this is what happened now with the new microcontrollers like Arduino, that you can, with a big knowledge of electronics, you can build hardware things as well and make the software that you want that makes something.
Yeah, especially when it's open source, then you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But yeah, so we have been using, well, through our practice, we are very attached to metronomes somehow, because we use a lot in some installations. And this one's the Rhythm of City actually is from 2010. We got inspired by one statistical findings by Borston and Borston, which was already actually in '72 found. They found positive correlation between pedestrian speed and the size of the city. basically bigger the city, faster move people. Smaller the city, the life is slower. So we were thinking like actually how we could translate the same finding to the digital era, because we were looking, of course there are like traffic cameras and so on, but not in every city. And then we found actually the social media data as Flickr, Twitter, YouTube, Foursquare, who has open APIs to get the geolocative data. And we are getting it every minute to the cities which we select, and we are converting it into the rhythm of each metronome. So each metronome is a city. And this way, actually, we discovered the pace of life of the digital inhabitants, so to say, because the people at the moment, they are making the rhythm of each metronome. And also, like it gives a part of the artistic value. It is also again the kind of alternative interface on perceiving the life in certain locations in real time. And this time we actually use the existing metronomes, the Yamaha ones from Japan, which are hybrid ones because they have pendulum but the sound is electronic. And we, so to say, hacked them because we made the pendulum longer and down a certain mechanism what is moving them.
But this was the previous work that the one on Bloomberg was like after.
So, Mari, you want to explain?
Yeah, it's not much to explain. Basically, we get all the APIs possible of a city that are open. Like Instagram, also, Varvara didn't mention. Like all the possible APIs geolocated that we can say, give me all the data produced in this location, and then we quantify, and then we have an easy algorithm that basically we have like minimum, maximum from a certain time, and then we normalize, and then basically we have the rim of that certain moment of production of data. Each city, it compares itself. Because it will not make sense to compare New York and Tallinn, because then Tallinn will be always slow rather than New York will be always fast. But this is opposite the way we do in, for example, in the metronomes, where they compare all between, because we want to know where the flow of transactions are going in the wall. Because it doesn't matter if there is more always transactions in New York Stock Exchange, because it's actually really happening like that. But in this case, we're more interested in the rim of each city, like the pace of life of the city. If rather than in Tallinn, in 9 in the morning, all the people is tweeting, and then and the city is awake before other cities, for example, like people wake up before another cities, and then the activity on the cities are more in the morning, and then stop early in the night, or is different?
Yeah, and actually this is like, it's not our theory. We were researching. And there are also lots of studies actually that they are researching the behavior, the human's behavior on social media, and they found the pattern that really like social media represents the activity, our activity in social media represents our daily life, like when we wake up, we start tweeting. When we go, where is the lunch break? The really like from activity, you see where is the weekend. That people tend to start tweeting later, and so on. So this was like very inspiring for us, and we wanted to connect these two concepts, and through our installation also like talk about this phenomenon, what is happening. So to talk about another work, which is binoculars to, binoculars from, and I would say it's more like cybernetic installation done and commissioned by Connecting Cities network in 2013. And basically the idea was to let people to open and close real-time windows between different cities. So we had we did in 9 different cities, but on the peak was we interconnected 7 cities at one moment. So basically the idea was actually
that we allow people to observe cities, but at the same time, observer gets observed also. So you want to explain more? Like, it's very tricky. Like it's simple flow, but people get confused.
Well, so. we love to make projects on the out of the museum. This project was in the street, and this is great because when you do project in the museum, and especially if they know that it's interactive piece or something like this, people is thinking, okay, how I interact with this? Maybe they look for the button, or maybe they see a Kinect and they say, okay, I have to move or something. If you do in the street, the interaction is very natural. The people don't know that they're going to find an art project or something. They just like will go and then will do what the natural thing does. This is basically looks like urban binoculars. Like there is many cities, like I think in Tallinn, in the top of the hill.
Well, touristic one. We got also inspired by this because you throw the coin and then you see the view in front of you. So we wanted a bit to trick it that, okay, you don't have to throw the coin, but you see the view not in front of you, but maybe on another side of the earth. So it's also this kind of concept comes to the play of what Mark Och is saying. Nowadays is the excess of time, space, and ego. Like suddenly we can be in US and in Australia from Tallinn just in a couple of seconds. So that's what we were doing, that people can actually click through we had there 7 cities. And of course we had installed the urban cameras. Like if you click Melbourne, so we open the stream from Melbourne, but we have the urban camera there, and person could observe what is happening there. But as a trade-off, we were recording the eye of the observer and putting it into the urban screen. So you actually, people could like, we amplified this observing act and also the feeling. And actually it was funny that when we were producing this installation, also this prism scandal came out. So it was really like fitting like rusikas silmaauku. I don't know how it's in English was this, but well, we have a video also. I guess it's this one, no? To explain. My name is Varvara Guljajeva. I'm originally from Estonia and work together with Mark Canet as an artist duo.
I am Mark Canet and I'm from Barcelona.
Okay, and we are showing because the video
I mean,
has
like 2 years ago when we released this project, we were like actually even looking this WebRTC that now I saw that Skype had just moved to WebRTC to the browser. That was like this week I saw that experimentally showing. And that in 2 years ago we didn't make it work in WebRTC. It's still like in old-fashioned like streaming. We probably will update, but basically it looks like super easy. It's not that much easy. Like it's like if you imagine like a call of Skype, like it takes some seconds of connecting. We just like put here, you see the image, and then your eye goes transported to another city. Like we have in certain moment 9 cities connected between, and you could like move from one to the other and see the image, and then your eye will go to the city. Also, if there is more than one eye, they will compose, and you will see different, like both eyes in the same urban screen. And
so it's coming
but
into the
well,
play,
like Barbara was saying, like I think it was a
surveillance,
nice metaphor. Like the people see what the people see what the people is looking. Like the people, and it's very interesting this thing because like and also it's like before we were saying we hide in the technology. Like there is servers involved. There is in each one of the binoculars a computer, but people don't need anything. You just need to go and look like a normal binocle, and then everything happens without they have to do something. But of course, you were seeing before an image where people trick, and normally you have to go closer, but some people just saw where is the sensor, and then you just put the sensor, and then they say, hello, I'm not showing my eye, I'm showing everything, and we will go 3 or 4 persons there, like interacting in the other city, and then they will see other people like that they look, and then they do something, and because they have this camera where normally the cameras were like pointing where also the binoculars is, means like there was some communication between the cities, which is kind of also the interesting part that you make frameworks where people can use it then hack it in a way, no? They can use how they want a little bit. It's like in the tower, like the highest human tower. We don't say anything that people will dance, but people like they don't stay quiet because they just think, okay, if I do something funny, it will be very fun to see later on in the tower, and then they just start to do funny things, right?
Yeah, and here we have also here was the map actually where the binoculars were installed, and well, the thing is like the idea sounds nice, the realization video is cool, but behind is lots of work.
And flying to Australia with 3 days going and back and installing 9 cities at the same time is not fun.
Well, this is the thing is actually when we, simultaneously we had 7 cities. So it actually means streaming-wise, it means 7 streams coming in, 7 streams coming out. So you have like 14 streams going on. And the thing is like we wanted, because we couldn't be like monitoring, well, we were monitoring because we, but not all the time. So we built the monitoring system for us that we see like, okay, this is the camera from the, from one binocle, and this is inside binocle. And that we could see which is up, which is not up. But the thing is like, although everyone is like using like streaming technology and it's super, they say it's super easy, and it is super easy if you have actually someone to click to start the stream, and if it's down to click start again and stop, then it's fine. But if you want to make it really robust and automatic, then there is the problem. And also, yes, we have last 2 minutes, and the problem is also now is maybe you have noticed like all the cities, they want to have their kind of urban media skin on the buildings, and you can imagine like every actually urban media technology has its own different specification. So if you need to send the signal there, so every case was really like different, because from one point you need to maybe to capture your screen part, or another one you have to send some other different thing.
It's like before so they were saying about like this really integration. Yeah, in Babadus we tried to make a project in this big screen, and it was impossible because each platform is like Barbara is saying, like each platform is basically has his own owners. Basically his own public workers that they protect, that nothing happens to the screen, that they will say, oh, this is not possible, we only can play videos and these kind of things. And that's what, we were not playing videos, we were playing software, and we have to install things in the machines that were running in these urban screens and these kind of things. And that's always like a huge mess if you imagine that you have to do in 9 cities.
But maybe to sum up, because we have last minute, like I hope you saw from our talk that we use heavily code, but we are also makers and we like to make things. So we are making really this twist from hard to soft, and maybe even beyond sometimes. And well, this was the last thing from the binoculars. Actually, this whole like behind the wooden facade of binoculars is actually lots of technology and sensors which actually people don't have to see and don't have to have problems with. And then to deliver this kind of a magical experience.
And to sum up, we're just basically creative with the technology, and we try to make concepts that, like I say in the beginning, that it was not possible to do before, and that with the use of technology we can be able to realize.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers for listening. So, we ask for questions, or is no time for questions? Yes.
Are you planning some installations in Tallinn in the
Near
near future?
future, not at the moment. We just had in the Design Museum the metronomes, and maybe in summer there will be.
Or in March, maybe. I don't know. We might do
too.
something with the Spanish embassy in March, that there is a festival of Spanish that they organize by the embassy. We still don't have any fixed things.
And if you will be making something, then how do we find out about it?
I mean, you can send us an email. We have a mailing list, and we can add you.
Yeah, that's true.
And also Twitter and Facebook and this kind of thing. We publish all the time.
Yeah, that's true. Yes?
You mentioned the problem that with the software side, like streaming. Can you say a few words? What are the challenges of taking hardware that you can put into a public space?
Well, this specific one was lots of challenge. One was the biggest one was the connection, internet connection. Because if you have the Wi-Fi dongle there, the mobile one, so it's always like up and down, so you have again to have some piece of code that this is monitoring this.
And also the streaming to the tech, if it's also like to see if it's properly working, and then if it's not properly working, killing and booting again. And also each one of the screens will have different resolution, means we will have to adapt to these kind of things as well. It's a lot of things at the beginning you don't see, you don't think, and then it's like, oh my god, I need to. I mean, it was not something that we send the binoculars, and each binocular was the same, but then each screen was different.
And sometimes camera was different. So
cameras were different, and they were not eager to install a new camera. Means we were using different kind of cameras,
like
each one with different codec, and so we were like the ones of the security cameras, because that's what the one that you were looking.
As soon as you do videos, everyone gives you like different formats. And in the end, you have to stream one format. So we learned with this project the GStreamer.
Yeah, GStreamer library is amazing, I would say. I don't know if you know, but it's like in C++, I think it's in all the Java and Python in many languages, and it's in Python, and it's just like amazing. Like if you want to transpose video from one to the other and do anything with streaming, you can, in Unix, you can do just like a huge line of terminal instruction that makes everything, passing from one resolution to the other, from one codec to the other, keeping track of many things.
But another thing, just a small comment, about the urban spaces also, you have to take care, like one mistake what we did, and then we had to correct, like if you close down somewhere computer, you have to put ventilator, and you have to look if someone violates it, that it's not super loose or open, and there are lots of problems, and the weather. Also. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.